a big improvement since doing that too. We have to do it. We're a part of nature. It only makes sense that we would need to be soaking it in when we first wake up in the morning.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. So that's awesome. Kind of kicks off your day on a good note and
Yeah. Yeah.
fabulous.
So, whereabouts are you again? Where
I
are you
am just
located?
south of Calgary.
Ah, okay. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Which community?
Okotoks.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I went to St. Paul's Academy.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I did. Well,
No
of
way.
course, it was distance learning back in the day, but yeah,
Yeah. Nice. That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. It was wonderful, wonderful experience. And that's the only
Nice.
time I ever went to Okotoks was for my graduation.
Oh, wow. It's changed a lot over the years. I grew up here and it's kind
Oh,
of sad how it's changed. It's grown so much.
hmm.
But anyway, yeah,
Is it
yeah.
like right up, right? Is it crawling up? What's the word I'm looking for? Is it following the globalist 15-minute city
Oh,
format or?
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
bummer.
it's really unfortunate. Yeah. Now, like as my husband said, as you come into Okotoks now from the north side from Calgary, there's all these multi-family dwellings, big apartment buildings. And he's like, what kind of welcome that is to our nice little town. Like you have this shit show all
Hmm.
over everywhere, that now they've got 500 families where there should be 10 homes. It's pretty
Pack 'em and
sad.
stack 'em.
Yep. That's what they're doing.
Yep.
You
Yep.
betcha. So anyway, just opting out of that. Thank you very much.
No kidding. Yeah. Well, and I was also mostly in the city, even up until August of last year. And I
Ah,
moved to,
okay. Because you were in
I couldn't take
Edmonton,
it.
right?
Yep.
Yeah. So where are you now?
I'm in Rocky Mountain House.
Really? My daughter-in-law is from Rocky.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Great little place.
Oh, yeah. It's wonderful. Well, it's cleaner. There's no fluoride in the water. And,
Oh.
yeah, and that's a funny thing too, because I said, I called Public Works and I said, hey, do you guys put fluoride in your water? And he's like, you know what's funny? No, we don't. But you know what's funny is I've never been asked that question, and you're like the third person this week.
No way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
we're
much
waking
truth is
up.
coming out. Yep.
I
So much
know.
truth is coming out. So it's awesome.
Yeah, indeed. Indeed. What are you most encouraged about out there when you look at all of the, because there's still lots of nonsense too. What are you most encouraged about?
Um, I would say probably at the amount of people who are waking up, the amount
Hmm.
of people who are realizing, holy smokes, everything that we're told and taught is not necessarily truth. And I need to dig a little bit and find out. And then as they find it, they feel it, right?
Yeah.
That as we tune in, and
Hmm.
it's tricky to trust yourself in a world where we've been so conditioned.
Yes.
But I
Yeah,
find that
so
that's
true.
encouraging, and finding, people are drawn into your life.
Hmm.
I love that people that you need, all the synchronicities, I guess. I'm encouraged by all of that.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I've noticed it, especially in the last year, be a lot more accelerated. I thought for the longest time, 3, 4 years of this nonsense, I was afraid that it wasn't ever going to happen. And finally, like especially over the last little while, noticed a lot more improvement in that. People are paying more attention. They're thinking, they're
Mm.
double guessing, they're questioning things. Um, yeah, never, unfortunately, it had to take the crime for people to actually realize, I think. It's unfortunate. I think that one of the reasons why people are waking up is because there is so much death within the families.
Right. Hmm.
Yeah,
It is. And it's sad, right? But yeah, I view death even differently.
me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to.
It's, yeah.
We have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's exciting. That part's exciting. Um, I've been kind of not anxious. Anxious is not the right word. I don't know what the right word is, but really resistant and fearful of the digital world,
Oh yeah.
feeling like them trying to take over, and me needing to control that, and all that kind of stuff. And so, to be honest with you, like the whole crypto idea, I know that there's lots of people making lots of money doing crypto, but
Yeah.
I'm like, how can this how can you use this as an instrument or a tool, but yet not be scared about everything digital? And I don't know. I'm struggling. I'm feeling like, okay, I need to learn more about this. I need to figure this out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's
yeah,
true.
hence why
We
I
all have. Yeah, we all have to do that. We all have to take more self responsibility over our data.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just
Especially because this is the nature of the war. See, a lot of people don't realize this is a transition. It's a great reset. They are resetting the financial infrastructure of the world.
right.
All of it is being driven by five major emerging markets.
Okay.
Each of these emerging markets has a similarity to them, but they're basically brand new. I mean, we've had even like nanotechnology, for example. Nanotechnology is emerging forward as one of the most profound renaissance level technologies that are coming out. And I say renaissance because imagine being able to take the raw materials of atoms. Okay, we've seen like 3D printers and stuff like that. We get the idea of the 3D printer. We give it some plastic, and it takes that plastic and then assembles that plastic for us into shapes and
Right.
things. Yeah, we've recognized that. But with nanotechnology, we're taking it to a whole new level. You see, they're within the next 2 years, it'll be commercially available. You can go down to Canadian Tire and you'll be able to get a nanotechnology device. And what this does is it gets the raw materials known as atoms and assembles the molecules. So instead of you having to go and get the molecule, like a set package of molecules of plastic for your 3D printer, you just need to get atoms. Now you take atoms and you give it to the nanotechnology printer, and it will take those atoms and assemble them into the molecules that you need to construct whatever it is that you're constructing. And with the way that AI is, that's, by the way, the second industry. There's nanotechnology. AI is another one, emerging market that is driving this great reset right now. And not from I mean, yeah, obviously the elites have their version that creates the illusions that we get to watch from emanating from our palms of our hands. We got that, but
Right.
this is really just a computer. And people, it's funny because they call it artificial intelligence, AI, but it's not. It's artificial, yeah, but it's not intelligent, and no, by no stretch of the imagination is it. In fact, right now, what we see in the world is very similar to what we saw at the beginning of 2020 with the fear of the virus. The language is the same, and the fear response is also the same. And a lot of people fell for that trap of being scared of the virus. Well, really, the only people they scared was the left. And
Right.
that's why Trump had to be brought back in for season 3 of the Great Reset, because he was the only one that would be able to recruit the right. And because he's just that good at selling, right? We have to remember that guy he got, we laugh at Zelensky and Trudeau for being involved in drama and all that before becoming prime ministers and presidents, and it's like people forget that Trump also had his practice round with The Apprentice,
Right.
acting,
Right.
right? So he's just as much of an actor as anyone else. And what he's doing is that he's actually, I believe he's going to, quote unquote, save the American economy by taking it to war, similar to every other president. But what's happening is that he's overselling what AI is capable of doing. You see, AI is not very intelligent. I've been working with it since, well, basically since it came out, because I wanted to know it and recognize how to use it, because I also recognize that it's just a button pusher. That's all it
Right.
is. This here has got some buttons on it, right? And I got to push these buttons, and sometimes I got to move this thing around in order to push the button at the right spot. And then I've got all these buttons, right? All of these
Yeah.
buttons, I got to press them. And in fact, I push so many buttons, I got to get a special pad of buttons that's curved and ergonomic so that I don't hurt my fingers while I push buttons. And what we have is just a computer. I did marketing and business automation from 2013 onwards, right up until COVID. And my philosophy was, whenever I would go and help a business out, would be, I want to make it so your business is more automated, so that you can spend more time face to face with your clients, because you make more sales that way.
Right.
So I just got the computer to do a lot of the administrative work, things like, reminder emails and all that stuff. In fact, I was one of the first people in Western Canada to have a license with Rogers, TELUS, Bell, all of those guys, to do text marketing. This was years before people did it all the time. Whenever they go to a restaurant, they reserve their spot. They get to they get to the front. Oh yeah, I'll give me my phone number, and then you get a text saying when your table's ready. I
Right.
was
Right.
one of the pioneers of that technology back in late 2000s, before 2010.
No way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But of course, I didn't make any sale. I mean, I made some money, but my business wasn't that big because I was 3, 4 years ahead of the curve,
Right.
and I've always been that way. In fact, most of the businesses that I have started have failed because they couldn't last the 2 years necessary
Waiting for that to catch up.
waiting for everybody else to finally clue in that I was right all along, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
coming back to this whole thing with the AI, the fact of the matter is Trump is overselling it. We don't have the computer chips necessary to accomplish what AI is being sold it can do.
Really?
It's amazing. People have to remember, it just pushes buttons. That's all it does. No different than the internet, by the way. The internet, it just made it where the buttons got pushed between two computers.
Right? Oh no, I'm getting a business call.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, take it.
How am I going to do this without dropping this? Hang on one sec. Let me see if I can answer
That,
this.
I'll hang out here. Yeah. Oh, excuse me.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, you bet.
Oh, did you hear my whole phone call?
No, not at all. You were muted.
I'm like, what the heck? I don't even know how that happened.
No
When I'm
problem.
on the thing, I don't know how that came through, but anyways.
Yeah, that's all good. Oh, it's probably because this is through the browser. It won't be through your phone, through the phone itself.
And now how come I'm having a hard time hearing you? It's
Oh,
gotta be
I'm
somewhere
not
on
sure.
here. Like
Check one,
volume is
two.
all the way up. Let me just because
All right.
how do I
Check
turn it back
one,
on
two.
speaker?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that might be it. That might be it. Maybe just reload the page.
Okay, let me try that.
You might try that. Yeah.
Oh,
Check one, two. Thanks for those of you joining in on live. How's that?
oh, that's good. Now I can hear you.
Perfect.
Perfect. Well, thank you
Awesome.
for your patience. Sorry about that. Am I the only one here?
Yeah, right now it's just you.
Oh, well, there you go. This isn't going to
Yeah.
be live, is it? Do you put this part on the video?
Well, I mean, I record everything, but I'm not live. I'm not broadcasting right now.
Okay, good. Good.
Yeah, I usually only broadcast if I've got more people and there's more engagement. But when it's just one-on-one, I usually just leave it alone.
Okay, good. As I was thinking,
Yeah.
here we're just doing all this small talk. People will be like,
No, not at all. It's all good. So yeah, where I was, it was this whole idea about AI being able to accomplish all kinds of things. And yeah, it's able to push buttons. That's about it. And you can coach it through pushing buttons. But the fact of the matter is, AI has been programmed with using parameters, and parameters are they use the term a lot. Different AIs have different numbers of parameters, and they also have different numbers of parameters that they can work with. But the point is, you got your basic AIs that got 150 billion parameters or 500 billion parameters. Again, it all depends on how much money's behind the project. Oh, and you disappeared. And you're back.
sorry about that. I grabbed the corner of my phone and disconnected us.
Oh, it's all good. All right. Not a problem. So yeah,
The parameters, you were just saying that there's like,
yeah, all of these parameters, they are what AI uses to calculate probabilities. You know how when you're texting someone, you got the predictive text?
yes.
Okay, that's the same technology.
Mm,
It's just when you're texting, there's a lot less parameters for the computer to retrieve in order to give you a suggestion.
okay.
Okay, but all it's doing is that it's calculating what's the most probable word that you're going to say next. So that's all it is. And
Wow.
all of these AIs that are working and doing their hardest, there's no question about them. They're very advanced computing engineering feats. Like there's no question. This is incredible, incredible work what we've accomplished. But it's not intelligent, not in the slightest. However, it can be used by intelligent people to accomplish some incredible things.
Right.
And all of those parameters, every last one of those parameters came from one source. Do you know what that is?
Well, the people.
Yeah, us. We've been
Yeah.
giving them our data. We've been giving them our data since the 90s.
Right. Like it's
So they've
almost too
just
late.
been Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's correct. It's too late. If we didn't want, but I mean, Wendy, it's no different than with the 15-minute cities. When people were crying about that, I was showing people the 15-minute city plaques. Like, they're not plaques, but you know those roadside signs. You know, you can rent those road signs for businesses and stuff like. I
Yep.
saw the 15-minute announcements. They called it. They called it. Look up 15-minute city or 15-minute communities in your city, and it had the website and everything. I went to that. This was back in 2020. I was showing people, look, this is what this is all about. You think COVID's about the virus? I mean, most people knew it wasn't. But most people within our community anyway knew that it wasn't to do with the virus. But gosh darn it, Wendy, they completely ignored the fact that this was actually about a digital ID.
Right. Well,
And
I
the
think we were
15
clueless.
Well, yeah,
Like we had,
most
I
people
think
were.
people just cannot, even still now at this time, people cannot wrap their head around that someone would do that. Like, well, why would they do that? Who would do that? Right? People have a heart.
Exactly.
Like when I mention it to people sometimes, they look at me like I have three heads.
Yeah,
Like, what are you talking
yeah,
about?
yeah,
So,
absolutely. And yet that's what this is all about. And similarly, the 15-minute cities, the infrastructure for well, Calgary was earlier, but Edmonton, the infrastructure for the ring road, which by the way is it's the first radius of the 15-minute city, because you're 15 minutes. If you take a freeway, if you take any of the main arteries, you're 15 minutes to the edge of the city. So that was your 15-minute city, which, by the way, those ring roads, they're actually designed by the military. And the reason why is because it helps not to protect the city from people coming in, but rather to protect the city from losing people.
getting out. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the 15-minute city, that infrastructure project was approved of in the early 90s. That's when the budget was approved for that. So if we didn't want 15-minute cities, we would have been paying attention a lot sooner, right? I mean,
Right.
it's really no different than the rest of my life. I'm literally 2, 3, 4, 5 years ahead of most people when it comes to knowing what's going to happen next. And when it comes to data, we have like the whole reason why this digital ID came about was because of how much we flocked to using these computers. I mean, you know, think about it. If you're hungry now, you can order food at the click of a button. I couldn't do that in the 90s,
Right.
right? I couldn't even do that in the 2000s.
Right.
Yeah. So now everything that we do, every button we push contributes to the digital identifiers that we've signed up for since we started signing up for emails.
Right.
Yeah, you sign up for an email, that's a digital ID.
Right.
You sign up for Facebook, that's a digital ID. Sign up for an AI, that's another digital ID.
Right. And at the same time, I feel like, yeah, it can be scary, but it also can be to our benefit. Like, look at how much good. I wouldn't be able to be having this conversation with you if it weren't for the internet, if it weren't for
That's right.
all of those things, right? So I think it's all in the perspective of how you implement them in your life, whether it's going to be good. Are you gonna do the fear path? Are you gonna do this is going to build communities and love, spread love and enlightenment to others through this tool? Do you know what I mean?
Bingo.
I
Totally.
really am trying to like let go of the whole, oh my gosh, I have to pay with everything with cash, and like freaking out about the whole digital thing, to just be like, okay, you can choose if this is going to be for good or for bad. It's
Right.
how your intention is applying it in your life.
That's right. Absolutely. And the whole digital
Man,
ID
that
thing.
gives me peace.
Oh, I know, right? There's so much available to us when we approach it that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's also informed consent. And to know what is going to happen is really important. To know what you're doing is really important. So yes, you can have intent, but you have to be able to know what's going on and then make a decision, because it's never going to be all good, is it? It's going to be in the sense of good, in the sense of leading toward the goal of sovereignty. To me, which you're ultimately responsible for yourself, and and what you own, you know. So like right now, I don't really own my property. I don't own myself. I don't own my name. Somebody else owns it. And so, yeah, okay, I can see a way that there's a way to undo that. And then it become, I love what you do, Paul. It's the small part of, here's the big you, you know, the big you, the big, like a big cell. And you're like, your identity is this one little, what do they call those, flagellates or something, with that little thing within the cell. You're this big being. And then you know that this has, it's like a chess piece in the culture.
Yeah.
And to me, that's yes, I order from Amazon. Well, you know, we just talked about this yesterday, but I order from Amazon occasionally. But I really like Amazon. I like the convenience of it. But I also realize what I'm doing with it. And I have no illusions about myself that for convenience, I will do certain things. Now, whether it's just a lack of consciousness on my part, and who that little being is in the big picture. Anyway, this is how my viewpoint is changing now, because Wendy, I used to hold that, and I don't know if I don't know if I'll go back to it. I might, you know, where intent is everything, and that may be the absolute truth. But for right now, on this parallel kind of place where we are all taking different perceptions of who we are, this is who I'm seeing, and maybe learning and accepting that, yeah, I'm going to do things just like I blame other politicians for convenience. I'm going to do it for convenience as well. So I'm human in that way. And this is the human being that I am right now.
But isn't that the whole point? I think that's the whole point, is that we're here to experience the human being aspect of it and the joy that comes with it. Like, I think that's the whole point, right? If you like the convenience of Amazon because that brings you joy, or that brings you something that you need to implement in your life that you're trying to create for yourself, then that's what I'm saying. I think I'm letting go of the whole fear of because I was doing that. I was doing like, I'm not ordering anything on Amazon. I'm going to support the local shops. I'm going to do all that kind of stuff. And I do still try to support local shops. But I think, again, if it's fear-based because, you know, oh, we're giving them control or we're whatever, then I think you're missing the whole big picture.
Mm-hmm.
That, in my perspective, that's where I'm at. I appreciate that, you know, that's where you were and that's where you've moved from. That's where I'm at. And
I do get that.
Peace inside.
Think about it too, is that, yes, some of my decisions are fear-based. Yes.
Yeah. And that's the problem, right?
I am fear. I have a thing where fear is activated now. Whether I become aware of it and then look at it and let it go, or let it move through me like a thought comes to serve the moment, and then it goes back again to all that is. So there's a chance, there's a point of transmutation. And forget, I get what you're saying. And no, I don't want to make a decision that's fear-based. I don't want to hold on to a fear position. But because I am in transition, some of my decisions are fear. Fear is included.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But you're recognizing it. That's the first step, right?
Right.
Is when you recognize, okay, is this you stop and act? Because I do the same thing. That's, again, part of that whole human experience. When I find myself in that and I say, okay, just a second. Whoa, hold the phone. Is this coming from fear or is this coming from love? Because we know that everything from God, from the divine source, is love. So if it's fear, then that's ideas or things, you know, that are put out there for us to keep us separated, to keep us wallowing around in the storm rather than being in the eye of the storm. Do you know what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying. I really do. Yeah. I have a different, and I think we're saying the same thing, but we're coming from a different context.
Yeah. And I'm sure because everyone's experience is so unique. And
Yeah.
that's the beauty of it. At first, you think, oh no, something's wrong with me, or something's not right, or I'm not doing something right. But really, that is the beauty of it. The experience is that everyone's path is individual. That's my idea anyway. That's my latest thought.
and how could I argue with that? I think each one of us has that unique energetic structure that is uniquely ours, formed by the currents of life,
For sure.
and
Yeah.
choices we've made. So I totally agree with that. And I think I would guess I'd put different words. I think showing up as much as I can in my life is my primary activity.
Yeah.
Is it showing up? Can I show up present in life no matter what my mind is doing? Can I still like right now to you, can I show up fully with you, listening and trying to take in and just showing up as much as I can? So it's just like different words that I'm going to take on, and rather than, and thank you for clarifying that for me, because that is really what I feel the vitality of my own being coming to is like, oh, I just want to show up. Can I show up here?
Right. And presence, like being in the present, as in like a time frame, the present. If you think about present in the other meaning of the word, it's a present. Really, it's a gift to yourself to be here right now doing just this, rather than thinking about what has happened or what you need to do. That's what I feel like my whole life as a young mother. My husband was gone all the time. And I just felt like I needed to be multitasking all the time. The better I got at multitasking, then the more productive I was and the better organized I was and blah, blah, blah. And we get stuck in that hamster wheel of having to be thinking ahead and always preparing, rather than, I feel like I look back and I think, man, like where did all those years go? I kind of don't even remember. It was a bit of a blur because I wasn't present. And so that to me is like, oh yeah, I'm going to give that gift, that present to myself to be here now. And what do I want in my life right now, rather than what I thought I needed to expect or achieve? No, what do I want right now? And if it's something that you want on Amazon, then bloody well order it on Amazon. That's my thing.
I absolutely agree with you on that. Absolutely.
And it's hard. It's hard to keep pulling yourself back to that, because we've been conditioned to be the other way for so many years. I find myself getting caught up in that again, and then realizing, oh wait, stop, rewind. Okay, just be here, be now.
And this brings up exactly why we have NextGen merchants. So this here is the, our market analysis, but we get together and we talk about this kind of thing all the time. What we are practicing is recognizing that presence is something that you surrender when you identify yourself as the citizen.
Right.
See, for me, when people are asking me, or if I'm asked for my ID, right? This thing here, the plastic piece, right?
Yeah.
When people ask it for me, usually they're, either, especially if they're wearing a uniform, right? I'll say, this isn't mine. And that's, I go, people are, especially the cops, they're really excited about finding out that you have someone else's ID, right? You're not allowed to have someone else's ID. Like, no. It's not mine. You see, on the back here, it says, property of the government of Alberta.
Oh, I haven't even looked at the back of mine. Good for you.
You see, that's not me, nor is it mine. Nor is that even an identifier that I take on. You see, it's just an account. So coming back full circle, back to the whole data privacy thing that you're concerned about. Yeah, me too. That's why I got a firewall in my house. And by the way, it doesn't take much to do. I can show people how to do it themselves. Um, and that can be done to help privatize your data at home. Then the when it comes to this whole digital ID thing, remember, everything has gone to data. Data is the number one commodity, period. Time used to be the number one commodity. That's why they called them human resources, because they were managing the resources of humans and their time.
Right.
And that is going away because now you can subscribe, like take a look at some of the high rises down in New York that are literally vacant right now. High rises, vacant. Why? Because they were legal firms who had, 100, 150 legal assistants, and they were all replaced for a subscription about $100 a month. That little tiny box burns about $100 of power a month compared to millions of dollars of infrastructure to have people make mistakes most of the time when it came to drafting legal documents. So, and here's the thing, that little machine doesn't get paid by the hour. In fact, it gets paid by the digit. And this is fact. I've got a storage solution for all of these videos that I do so that they're private and encrypted and protected and all the rest. Well, that storage place doesn't charge me, X amount per month like what we see in Dropbox or Apple or any of that. No, they charge me by the terabyte, and it's $4.
Wow.
Because data is cheap. And in fact, it's so cheap, and because now it can be processed by machines and will increasingly be able to be processed by machines, especially when the new chips come out. A couple of years from now, we'll have new computer chips off the line, and they're going to give access to AI, or what we commonly call AI today. It's not intelligent. It's going to give access to quantum computing capabilities as a result. So there's another aspect of data that's just going to take over this concept of trading time for money. Yeah,
right.
It's going to be, it's wild how much control we actually have. And it's sad to see how much control people are surrendering because they're taking action out of fear. Oh, I don't want AI to take over the world. And so then they dig in their heels and they say it's evil. No, it's just a machine, like every other machine we've ever built. Did we think about how many buttons I don't have to push now. In fact, when I push buttons on here, I can push about 100 buttons. And in those 100 buttons, I can get AI to push 1,000 for me.
Wow.
Right? So it just makes sense that I would leverage my capability, right, of doing this to a machine. Why would we not? I think it's kind of funny because some people who are in that state of fear, they're so critical of it that I wonder if in the 1380 was an invention, and it was called the miner's friend. And the miners at the time, most were still peasants. They would be sent down into mine shafts to risk their life and limb to get water out of those shafts so that they could go in and mine for more gold. Well, somebody, thankfully, came up with the brilliant idea of building a machine that had the capacity to draw that water out of the shaft without sending anybody down. And that little thing was the first steam-powered pump ever built. And from that model, we built a locomotive about 200 years later, 300 years later.
Wow.
No, that'd be 500 years later. That'd be 500 years later we built a locomotive. Okay, so that little miner's friend that saved all those lives and prevented all of those men from having to die, and P.S., labor their bodies to haul water out of mine shafts, the people at the time would, we look back at that time and be like, wow, but so is that a very good thing? I didn't know that about the steam engine. Well, we have to remember that 50 years from now, 100 years from now, we're going to look back at this technology and be like, well, wow, it's a good thing we made that.
Right.
You know, like it's no different. Like we have, what has happened is that people have been so inundated with fear, it's almost like they're addicted to it. So when you introduce a new idea, they're fearful of it. The same thing happened in 2008. I was working, I was an assistant manager for a big tire shop. We had hundreds of thousands of dollars of inventory, massive clients in oil field and logging. And I took inventory of all of our, I tracked all of the inventory using barcodes on a Palm Pilot.
Right.
Yep. And in 2008, I watched the presentation of Steve Jobs live. I watched it live when he was presenting the first iPhone. And before that presentation was even over, I said, the whole world is going to change. There is nothing about what we've been doing with computers that's going to advance, but now we've got a whole other branch of computing with mobile devices. And I knew then that websites would have to be designed differently because I was sick and tired of using the Palm Pilot with the tiny little text and having to be able to zoom and all that stuff. And then when the phone came out and they were showing how you can just pinch and zoom, I'm like, nobody's going to do that on a website. And I was building in my head for my friend who had an auto body shop. I was already in my head building him a new website, so that when people would look at it on their brand new fancy iPhone that they had to go buy, I wanted to make sure that my friend had a website that was not going to be laborious for people to navigate. So when it comes to the future, I know where things are going. And I don't want to say that to necessarily impress people, but to impress upon people the importance of shedding your beliefs around these innovations, because it is our beliefs that drive our fears. It's the paradigms that we hold, the legal fiction that we declare is law in our lives. Those are the things that get us to be fearful of new technologies and things that will lighten the load. I mean,
Fear is a survival response. So that the survival of your identity, so when you're fearful, I think that would be really a good time to look at what is my survival response being activated here?
Mm-hmm.
What
exactly.
part of me is identified with this? I think it's a great indicator. So it's always been your gift, I see, Paul, that you haven't, even before you didn't have your identity, maritime, that you've always been able to see that, because that gives you that space, that air gap.
Yes.
Not being identified with what's being presented. So what a wonderful gift, a prophecy, really, because you're not identified. So you're able to get messages from the universe that maybe the rest of us aren't able to, or at least that's not our gift. We have other gifts, but I can truly see.
Yes, I see what you're saying. Yes, the gift I have, really, I don't necessarily see it. Maybe it is messages from the universe. I just see it as pattern recognition, which might be a message from the universe too. I don't know. But I just notice the patterns. I'm like, oh, this is the way things go. Oh, look at how much easier it is for people to visit websites now. Oh, look at how much easier it is for people to find the answers to things. Oh, look at how much easier it is for people to order food. Oh, look at how much easier it is for a business to collect a list of people that they can remarket to. Look at how, and I just imagine, where is this going to go? No different than it was the iPhone that got me to see what was happening digitally in the world. And then when it came to the digital ID, it was actually marketing. My world in marketing was all about the specific field that I studied was behavioral adaptive marketing, meaning depending on how people interact with your brand will determine what kind of material, what kind of marketing material they would most respond to next. And so I got into that field. Well, in order to do that, you have to track the users.
Mhm.
And so we've got cookies on websites, and we just put them on there so that the next time that IP address comes, we can safely assume that's the same person. Well, that went into the Facebook pixel, which was another piece of code that you'd put on your website so that so now it would be even more accurate retargeting, because the next time they went to their Facebook account, they visit your website, the next time they go to the Facebook account, you can have an ad ready for them to re-engage them to come back to your website. It was a wonderful technology. In fact, it reduced the cost of leads for my customers by 90%.
Mhm. Wow.
So the cost of acquiring a new customer dropped
Was-
90% when I
Yeah.
was 2013, 14, 15.
Are you familiar with Ken Wilber? He talks about Paul, I just think you'd love him. He's like Doc Hawkins on steroids.
Okay.
He's really done, and he's very. It's not anything new, He's been around for many years, actually since the 70s. But he talks about levels of consciousness, and the pattern recognition is a level of consciousness. That is a level of consciousness, and he talks about developmental integrative psychology. Integrative.
Okay.
What is this? I haven't looked at it in a while, but check him out. I think you'd really enjoy him. And the ability, well, I won't go into that, but it's describing different levels. Doc Hawkins is so good because out of fear, what is above 200? Courage. That's the first thing. It takes courage. Courage emerges when we're able to, even in spite of being in fear, look beyond it.
Right.
So those are like the first steps of being, what happened to Wendy?
I'm not sure.
Anyway, it's fascinating. I go in and out of these things because I can take so much and then I have to leave. I can't, my brain just won't do anymore. So I went to a certain level with him. Good to see you back.
Sorry. I keep tapping the bottom corner of my phone when it almost tips over. Then I go to grab it and it hits the Xbox.
Well, I think you're amazing if you can use your phone. So it's like amazing. Good for you. But and that's what I'll do is as much as I can take, I'll take. And then beyond that, it's like, I'm very curious about this whole digital world and the market analysis and how to interact in it and how to be in it. And, it's mastery, that I want to have mastery. Right now, I can see how much of an effect I am of it. So I would like to move that around and have some mastery. Use it like you're a master of it. So that's who you learn from, right? You learn from the master. So I appreciate the opportunity to do that. And like you said, for pretty good tuition, I'm happy with the tuition. For being inundated in it and having companions, to do that with. That I love sharing and forming community around all of it. So I'm very happy to be here. So
I'm very happy everybody's here.
I don't know you yet, but we'll get to know each other because we're both. I'm lover of truth and seeker.
Nice.
It's interesting the work that I get to do. Like yesterday, I was helping out Marsha a little bit because she needed to make her second transaction. And so we were playing around a little bit and we get everything done and the transaction goes off and it shows up in her non-custodial wallet and I just started giggling like a little schoolgirl. And she's like, "What's up with that?" And I said, well, it's just like every time I see it happen, it's like there's another bunch of money that's not in the bank.
What do you mean by, what did you say, kind of wallet?
Oh, non-custodial.
So what does that
It's
mean?
well, that's a good conversation. Non-custodial in blockchain is the terminology to describe the highest level of security on an account.
Okay.
Yeah, and there are
Okay,
different
so
types of wallets out there, and some
do
of
you
them are
have a start
non-custodial. And
here
some,
video? Because
I
I feel like
don't.
I'm jumping in. You guys are already talking about stuff, and I'm like at 0.0.
Yeah. Well, the purpose of this mastermind is to introduce people to everything. So I
Oh,
always
perfect.
tailor it to whoever's on the call. And I mean, there's tons of videos on YouTube and stuff like that. All of those people on YouTube, they're just there to, try to get you to sign up for their big training thing that they've got.
Right.
And so when you go and watch those videos to learn how to sign up for those things, just keep that in mind. Now, what I do is that with our private clients, I take people through specific exchanges that I like to use. Down in the States, we've got a good system now. We've got a good selection of exchanges that people can sign up for. And what that is, this is the first step, Wendy, is to build a bridge. You've got your Canadian realm. I'm going to just open this up a little bit like this. You got your Canadian realm here.
Okay.
And then there's the private realm over here.
Yes.
The Canadian realm is where, your bank account is, you got your social insurance number, you got all those identifiers.
Okay.
Over here is called the public realm. And everything that happens here is kind of like, give to Caesar what's Caesar's. If it's in Canada, you have to follow the rules and the terms and conditions, or rather the community guidelines, which really are all the codes and laws and edicts that they came up with surrounding that Canadian entity.
Okay.
But over here in the private realm, there's no jurisdiction. I mean, well, there is, but it's your jurisdiction, not their jurisdiction. So when you are in your jurisdiction, you have autonomy over all your property. When you're in Canada, you don't.
Right.
And people think that they're supposed to. And that's the crazy part. Like, we think it's crazy that the government is taking ownership over other people's property or taking jurisdiction over other people's property. We think that's crazy. But what's even crazier is that it's by the people's consent. Because you don't have to be here. I'm over here most of the time. Every once in a while, I go to Canada. And when I go to Canada, I pass money across a bridge. And that bridge is an exchange. No different than if you were to go on a holiday, take some Canadian dollars, stick it in your pocket so that when you get to the airport, you go to that kiosk and you can exchange your Canadian dollars for your francs or your rubles or wherever you're going, right?
Right. Yep.
Same idea. That bridge is where you're exchanging your Canadian dollars to go and start spending money in that other jurisdiction.
Okay.
But in the private jurisdiction, and in the private jurisdiction, I have a trust. And in that trust is all of the things that most people would say should be my property if I was in Canada. But I can't own that property in Canada because the rules, the terms and conditions, which, by the way, I've read. Most people are programmed not to read the terms and conditions, so they don't even know what it means to be Canadian, and I do. And so I'm very, very seldom do I act in the capacity of Canadian. In fact, the last time I accepted Canadian funds for any of the bigger contracts that I do, Canadian funds for like a Substack, for example, and stuff like that. But the last thing that I did, like in my business, was in 2019. At the end of 2019, I accepted Canadian dollars for a contract that I did for an oil field company. That was the last time I accepted Canadian dollars for my work. Everything else that I've been doing ever since is, $150 here, $150 there. But everything happens now in the private realm. What happens there in the private realm is outside all statutory bodies corporate, meaning
Right.
there's no jurisdiction except for the jurisdiction that I create with contract to another. So, Maureen
So are you
and me.
saying you had to write that, you had to create that trust? It has to be a written trust to protect that private money, that money
I
made
didn't
in the
have
private.
to. I didn't have to, but I did so that it doesn't matter where I am on the planet. I can access that, just transfer it across the bridge, convert it into whatever local currency I need to. People think this is magical, and it's not. This is how artists work. Like people that they run concerts and like performing artists. They got concerts all over the place. They do the same thing. There's the being, there's the physical body, and then there's an account. And they've got accounts in all kinds of different countries. No different than us going and getting a card for Tim Hortons, and then there's a card for Starbucks, and then there's a card for a Second Cup. And whenever I go to those places, I'm going to use those cards. Why? Because I get points. And the same thing applies. Trump, he talks about how they're talking about how he doesn't pay his taxes. Nobody in his echelon of real estate investment pays taxes. Come on.
Right.
They have trusts that own their properties.
Right.
That's just how it works.
How do you know how to write the trust? Like, is there a template or something to create, to know what you need to cover?
I want to know.
Yeah, this is a good question. What kind of trust do you want to make? There's an irrevocable trust. There is a trust for equity. You can have a trust that handles the contract. Like there's so many things. There's so many things that you need to take into consideration before starting. Yeah, that's why nobody knows, because nobody really knows what they're doing.
Right.
For me, what I did was that I basically had two businesses running at the same time. 2017 through 2019, I had two businesses. One of them was in the private realm and one of them was in Canada. And the private realm company just invoiced the Canadian company for all it's worth, so that the Canadian company had no taxable income. But that was a trust that I set up specifically for a business to contract as a market, or rather, I called it the Great Reset consultant, because the Canadian entity had no idea what the hell was going on. I did, and I, being a beneficiary of the trust, was contracted by the Canadian company as a private individual to consult it through the Great Reset. So that's when I was doing things like buying gold and making sure that it's allocated properly. Do I want some in the vault? Do I want some in my basement? Do I want some out in the mountains? Where do I want this gold? All of that I did, 2015 all the way through 2019, I did that specifically so that when 2020 came, I didn't know it was going to be 2020, but I knew that the Great Reset was coming. I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that I had to make sure that I had the capacity to say goodbye to the Canadian realm. Because when the reset was coming, I knew, and we're getting closer now, especially with Carney, but that the offer is going to be, oh, look at how terrible the financial situation is. You know what? We've got something for you. We're going to issue this new currency, and it's going to be so much better than the old one because it's inflated to shit. So this new currency is our great solution. And all you need to do, and we see that you've got all this debt, $40,000, $50,000 of debt. You're going to need to take care of that because, that's just the way it works. But don't worry. We know that you can't, it just takes you forever to pay these off because of how bad the purchasing power of the dollar is. But you know what? With the way that things are going and because of how bad it got, we've created this new solution, and one of these coins here is going to pay off 20 of those ones. So sign up for your digital ID now. And I wanted to make sure that when that ultimatum came down the pipeline, that I could simply say no, and it was not going to affect my financial position. And again, it's because I know what things are, how things progress. I'm watching. Carney, before he was even talked about in Canada, the independent journalists that I know, that I work with, he was already on top of it, knowing that he was going to be prime minister before it was even talked about in the mainstream. And it's just because we know what's going on. We know what Canada is, and we know what it isn't. And we know that Carney, that's what he gets hired to do. He goes to bankrupt nations. That's his job. He's been contracted to do that since the 80s, when he got really good at handling bankruptcies when he took care of Trump's, by the way. He was the trustee for banks for Trump's bankruptcy. So he got really good at it, and now he does it for countries. The last place that he demolished was Britain. And in fact, the British politicians, every British politician hates him. They call him Mark Carnage.
Right.
Now he's here. Well, even if we didn't have an election that was fake, he was still going to, like, even if Polyev won the fake election, Carney's job was the same thing. It's just more convenient and a lot easier and simpler to do it himself than to tell Polyev to do it. Like,
Right.
People have no concept of what Canada is. It's a bankrupted corporation that was started by the Crown to bail out the Hudson's Bay Company. That's what Canada is. It's nothing else. And the only reason Canada exists is because people think it's real. And when you know that, you can understand what it is that Carney's here for, and start recognizing, okay, the Canadian dollar will never go up in value again, which means every day you're holding it, you're losing money. What do I need to do?
Which is why I need you to teach me how to do why I'm here to learn about the market analysis and to get my money out of the fiat currency. That's what I'm here for.
My first question is, before you start getting involved in anything, do you have some gold and silver?
I do.
Okay, good. Then as long as you got that, you're going to be fine. Because even if you have an ounce, you've got more than Canada.
What is a recommended amount of gold and silver, or what should you move toward?
That's a good question, depending on what your goals are.
Yeah, that's true.
It really depends on your goals and what do you have available. There's that too. Like for in 2018, 2019, I knew that the prices were never going to be those prices again, and I don't think they will ever be the same prices then. In fact, I don't think we'll ever see a $2,000 ounce of gold again. And I was buying it like $1,600, $1,700 US an ounce.
Where were you when I needed you that long ago?
I don't know. I was probably buried in some computer somewhere, building some business somewhere. I don't know. But 500. I was going 500.
Do you think it's still a good time to continue buying gold and silver?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah, we were at an all-time high, but we'll probably not be this low again, probably for 3-4 years.
So continue to buy gold and silver. And what about crypto? Like, I'm looking to make some money now. Like, I know gold and silver is like an investment for the long term, but I want to like generate some income now. I have things I need to do, want to do now.
Okay, so then you and I are going to have to meet up because Maureen and I have an appointment.
Nice.
So Wendy, what I'm going to do is let's book you in for an appointment right now. What's availability do you have this weekend? Or do you want to push it to like Monday, Tuesday type thing?
No, it's probably better if I do it with my husband here so that I'm not trying to regurgitate and explain to him. It'd be better if he could be here and hear it right from me.
We could do it later, like later this afternoon, 3-4 o'clock.
Today is probably not good Like, I
Okay.
don't know if you have any time on Saturday or Sunday, but he is trying to get a truck together. So
Yeah, no problem.
I don't think today's going to work for him.
That's fine.
But
Let's go to tomorrow. What do you have available? Because tomorrow I've got all morning available.
okay, let's do tomorrow morning.
What time?
9 o'clock.
You got it. Yeah, that's right. We're in the same time zone. I got to be paying attention to that. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
we're good. If that works for you, that would be phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. Wendy, let me just get your email here. I'll send you a calendar invite.
Okay. Send it to the number 5,
Mhm.
HAVNFUN, so 5 having fun, at
Yep.
gmail.com.
Nice. That's a good email address.
I thought it was really catchy, like, I don't know, 20 years ago or whenever email first came out.
Yeah.
But everybody always spells it wrong. I thought it was so catchy, HAVNFUN, but everybody always wants to spell having.
Oh,
Nobody
right.
ever spells it right, so it's a bust.
Yeah.
Where do you live, Wendy?
Okotoks.
She's just
Okay.
south of Calgary.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, how about you,
Maureen?
Maureen? Where are you?
Yeah.
Southern California,
Oh, wow, nice.
USA. Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's awesome. We have some neighbors down in Montana that came from Northern California.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. Okay, cool. Well, we're booked for tomorrow, Wendy. We'll see you at 9 o'clock.
Okay.
And
That
thanks
sounds
so much for
awesome.
joining today.
Yeah, well, thank you. And it was nice to meet you, Maureen, and be able to chat a little bit. I look forward to probably seeing you on another call sometime.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Sounds good. Okay, well, thanks, Paul. Have a great day.
Yeah, you bet.
See you
Take care.
guys. Okay, bye-bye.